Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about exaggerating your skills. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Frederick, I have heard people say that a lot of software developers exaggerate their skills and how much they know. Is this true? Sometimes, I will say. Sometimes, but for the most part, it might be a regional thing, but the most of the developers that I meet, they usually underplay their skills in many cases. Like what I basically mean by that is that they're very humble in terms of like you practically always see if you look at the tech talks, very few tech talkers or people who do presentations in a public fashion do make bold claims. It's really usually the communication is more coming from a place of this is how we're doing it. We know it's not perfect, and there are other ways to do it. Like it's a very, I think, disarming and non-aggressive. It's very prestigeless often. I think when you listen to developers talk about their craft and the skills that they have, and there are of course exceptions to this, but I think that the reason behind that is mostly because whenever you put yourself out there, I mean, this was something that I've even on my little channel here, you kind of just have to learn. You just have to learn how to deal with it. As soon as you say A is A or B is B, you have to understand that you know that there are many perspectives on that. But if you even for a second forget to say that or communicate that in a perfect fashion, there's going to be a fucking line of opinionated, strong-willed developers who felt that you were now wrong, and they're going to get up in your face about it. And they're going to, and that's the hard part about communication. Even if you try to say everything in a perfect fashion, even you really do your best, your darndest to say, this is just how we do it, or this is just how this is done, and so forth, you're going to get criticized for it. And even if you try to exaggerate that, you have to remember it's almost impossible for you to fake skill safely on over time, like to keep that consistent. Because sure, you can absolutely bend the truth a little bit and exaggerate your skills to someone who doesn't really know all that much. As long as you feel comfortable that there's no one who can call you out on it, it's a safe thing. But how are you going to deal with that then if the context changes? One of my favorite things is well, favorite things is a strong word because it's a little bit sad, uh, in a way, I think. I have a group of friends who work as solution architects, and I mean they are they are established people. They are working well. They're doing a good job and so forth. But the challenges that they face within their work is usually different from the challenges that I face and my coworkers face. And what's interesting is that whenever I've gone like pubbing with them or gone out for drinks or something like that, there is a jargon if from the people in the group who join us, because usually I'm there with a lot of their coworkers, and they talk with a certain boldness about the stuff that they do and their skills and customers and so forth. And I mean, everybody's just ventilating. Everybody's kind of just offloading after a long day, because unfortunately we work in a PC culture where you can't really just be yourself often. Even if I think that should be the case, that people should be able to be who they are, we simply can't find a way to do that. So they're letting off steam, and they're telling me about this customer who was bad, or like, oh yeah, and this person was complaining about their implementation, and I can hear that, like, I can hear the boasting about their skills and how good they are at things, right? And but whenever my friend who knows me, who actually starts talking, he doesn't do the same sort of thing. Now I know him, and I know that he usually does this thing, but whenever it comes to this specific area about what his work and the stuff that they are doing, the coding that they are doing, he doesn't do it when I'm around. And After talking for one evening, if I speak, the mood goes very quickly from like it starts out very boastful and starts out with exaggerations and like all this. Oh, it's obvious that you should be using this system or that tool or this and this and like. And after a little while, even if I don't try to, all I have to do is say a few select phrases, and then they start picking up on that. Oh shit! There's someone here now who actually knows what we're saying, and in some cases I don't know what they're saying because I don't know those tools, but in some cases I actually know even more than them, because that's the thing. That's a very good saying where there's always someone who knows more karate than you. And since there's always a risk whenever you're a software developer, that, well, risk, it's given that if you go into a conversation, it's unlikely that you know everything about everything, and that there's always going to be someone there who knows something that you don't. And it's really tough. It's really tough to maintain that exaggerated state, or that boastful state, where you kind of chest slap yourself and go, yeah, I know all these things, and I etc etc. When you're in a context where there's at least one person who actually knows more than you. It's, as I said, it's really easy if you're all at the same level and you have the same value system or same insights into whatever you're doing, or you're dealing with someone who doesn't know anything. But for most software developers, that's just not the case. And that's why I think that it's really interesting to see that the people who do public speaking, they're usually very humble, because as you can imagine, if you're going to do a YouTube video or you're going to go on like a conference, you're there with tons of people who are at varying stages with different skills, and there's definitely a few people in the audience who know quite a lot of stuff, and you don't know who you're talking to all the time, which means that you might end up looking really, really silly and embarrassed. Especially if you, because boasting and bragging, that's all great and fun for you, but it also puts a bit of pressure on you to be perfect. Because if you're humble and you get something wrong, people usually will forgive you for that. But if you're boastful and you've been getting in people's faces, they're gonna tear you to shreds if you make a mistake. So what I want you to take away from this is that it is true that some software developers absolutely exaggerate their skills and so forth, and I think that everybody can relate to, at some point, to have embellished the truth a little bit to make a story a little bit better, or make yourself look a little bit better. It's a very natural thing, I think. But overall, I find most software developers to be very humble people, not necessarily just because they're good people, but because it's really hard, as I said, to be boastful and bragging in a field where there's so much going on that you know that you can't be an expert on everything, and there's so many people who might be much better at it than you, and it's really, really embarrassing for you, or at the very least very humbling, when you kind of have established this chest slapping, boastful type of attitude, and then you sit down in a group of people where they actually start calling you out on some stuff, and they actually start schooling you. Nothing gets you humble as quickly as being schooled, and some people might actually lash out. I've seen a few people who get really defensive, or at the very least they try to dismiss the fact that they just got corrected. They try to somehow protect that reptile part of themselves. So it's a dangerous world to walk, and in my experience, very few software developers do this. They usually are fairly humble. That's at least my experience. Have a great day.